Hey, this is my twin, Monique Disconocido, author of the blog flameontheotherside.com, and I'm her twin brother, Kane, and you can find me on Tumblr at seer-healer.
Yay!
Woot woot!
Hi! Yeah, there is a method to my madness. Don't worry about that.
I
Okay.
see.
All right, so you guys, we're going to be talking about what spiritualists don't tell you about being in a twin flame relationship or about twin flames in general. The first thing I wanted to kind of touch up on is how spirituality is important. The reason why a lot of twin flame relationships fall apart or they fail is because one is more spiritual than the other. And it doesn't really matter how much spiritual the other person is, because there's a certain level of understanding that you're not necessarily on the same page. Not all the time. If you are on the same page, then you're more than likely in a decent relationship. I mean, that's how I feel. And if you are on the same page also, you're using the right kind of communication skills to keep you guys leveled. Instead of one being here and one being here, now you're up here because you are using the same language. So when one is more spiritual than the other, you're going to have to speak in terms where they can understand. And do not, for the love of God, do not use the term twin flame, because that's just kind of like, don't use soulmate either, because a lot of people have these kind of ideas about what they are, or some people have just no idea, and just keep it simple and just say that you are kind of meant to be together, whatever it is that you're going to be comfortable with and whatever you think they're going to be comfortable with. Because if you're going to say that, then you're going to open a whole can of worms. It's going to cause a lot of issues. So spirituality is important because you have to know yourself and integrate with your higher self. Your higher self and your spirit self are pretty much the same thing. So when you when you when you when you get to know who you really are, it makes things a little bit easier for you understand yourself a lot more, and you start to realize, okay, well, this part of me doesn't necessarily mesh with who I am in this incarnation, and you can sort of tell where that part of you comes from. The thing is that I can't really explain how this would work out if you are not a star seed. If you are a star seed, I think it's easier to tell a difference between who you really are versus who you are incarnated. And you kind of have to balance the two. You have to find some kind of balance. And that goes with, female and masculine energies. You have to balance them together. Otherwise, you're like all over the place and there's just too much of this thing. Like, using me, for example, I am a tomboy, but my true self is pretty much the opposite. So I kind of have to balance the two. I was doing well, okay, for about like 10 years ago. I was doing pretty well. Um, but I kind of like slipped or slid off the tracks just a little bit. But also keep in mind that when I was, when I was integrating with my true self, I was on the path. When I wasn't on the path, that's where things kind of just sort of like went blah. So you have to know who you truly are, and if you know who you are, then you're on the right track. If you don't know who you are, then you're gonna have to do a little bit of digging, and that's where spirituality comes in, because you have to have a certain amount of spirituality. And I can't tell you how much spirituality you need. Nobody knows how much spirituality you need. Only you do.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
this is why going to these YouTube gurus or whatever the fuck, whatever you call them, they like to push these sort of ideals onto people. Like, to me, when I see them, it's like they portray this sort of like I know everything kind of shit. No, no, it doesn't work like that. We don't know shit until we die. So I stress that people don't take these videos personally. You don't have to take my video personally either. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I'm just sharing some information. And I'm telling you right off the bat that I don't have all the answers, which most spiritualists don't tell you. So,
Yeah. it's kind of like it's like kind of like take all the things into consideration. I mean, like when you read your textbooks, you'll when you read like chapter by chapter, I mean, it's great that you are reading it, but you're reading also knowing that you're not going to remember all of this word for word in 10 years. So you just take in what you need at that moment in time, and it's great if you actually are literally reading word for word, um, so you can have a deeper
Sorry,
understanding
I'm
of the
hearing Eric.
context.
I'm hearing Eric at the same time. Go ahead.
Oh, that you're getting the context around the terms that you need to learn for the test.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like take it into consideration.
yeah. Only take what makes sense to you. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel that a lot of people just kind of blindly accept. It's sort of like going to church. It's like going to school. People are these teachers or these gurus or these preachers are feeding this information. A lot of people just take it too much to heart, or they just blindly accept it as truth, and that's not how it works. You cannot grow from taking people's ideals or situations and apply them to you and your life. It just doesn't work that way. um,
Yeah, another thing that came to mind, it was like make room for doubt.
exactly, exactly.
Always
and
keep room and space for
and
doubt.
and accept it. A lot of
Yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah.
I like a long time ago, I heard that somebody said, if you doubt who your twin flame is, then you're not ready for the relationship, which is true. It's kind of true, but you still need a certain level of doubt to keep yourself grounded. Like,
Hmm.
again, you can't just have your head up in the clouds and think, oh well, this person said that. That just doesn't work that way, because you have to keep your feet on the ground and just realize it's using mindfulness. When you're using mindfulness and you're really thinking about what you've learned, and kind of like what I do is separate. I separate what I think is believable and what I think is not believable. And as I learn more and more information from Eric or from my spirit guides, then that bullshit folder starts to empty out. I filter all that information into what I believe to be true. And
Hmm.
when I share this information, I am telling you that you don't have to believe me. You don't have to take everything I say to heart. I don't want you to take what I say to heart. I want you to just take whatever information you feel that is what's that word? Oh
Whatever
my
that
god.
resonates with you.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Whatever
Hmm.
resonates with you, just take that information, but still consider the information that you don't necessarily understand. Consider it. Sit on
Hmm.
it for a while. Write it down and just sleep on it. Like, literally sleep on it.
Hmm.
And then come back to it later. You might find that it's helpful. And then even the stuff that does resonate with you, it can occur the opposite. Maybe that information doesn't necessarily sit well with you anymore. Like twin flames. Like, I didn't necessarily believe in them, and I kind of like just put it in the bullshit folder. No, I bounced back and forth. I had it in the bullshit folder before I met Eric.
No.
Now, communication is also very important. I've already spoke about this several times. Communication is important. Make sure that you are on the same level in communication as the other. You have to communicate in the way that they will understand. And I don't know why spiritualists don't talk about this. It's it's it,
Well, it's kind of like it's just the same thing if you take, the blueprint that the spiritualists are doing, and you take it and you apply it to scientists. Scientists generally speak a scientific language, and then when they're speaking to non-scientists, it's very hard for them to communicate and translate what their research is and why the rest of the world should find it valuable.
so
And
basically, sorry. Well,
and okay, I'm sorry, go
because
ahead.
Eric he said you have to have a balance of the two. It's sort of like listening to your head and your heart. You have in this entire experience, there's a balance. You have to listen to your head and you have to listen to your heart. You have to balance your female and your masculine. You have to
Mm.
balance Because if you're so focused on your heart, you're missing the important information that is in your head. And that is what we're talking about. You have to communicate correctly. Don't put your so much emotion into explaining to your significant other. You have to listen to your head as well as your heart. What is your head saying? What makes sense to you? How is it that you can communicate this information in a way that the other person is going to understand? Why spiritualists don't say that, I don't know. And this is kind of the most important information, because relationships fail because of communication or infidelity. And communication is key in no matter what kind of relationship that you're in. But it's most important if you want to have a drama-free relationship. Now, if your twin flame happens to be deceased or in the afterlife, whatever, if your twin flame is, even if they're on Earth, you guys are separated for whatever reason, you still have to have that communication. But if yours is not on Earth or incarnated, you still have to communicate. Communication can come in many forms. You can use a pendulum, you can use telepathy, you can use tarot cards, whatever that you feel is comfortable, but you have to have that open line of communication. Yet the phone lines have to be open, because if there's no communication, there's no growth. You can't just say, okay, well, my twin flame is dead and I'm just going to just leave it alone. You can do that, but you can't expect to be in a relationship that is beneficial to you in the next life if you don't communicate with your twin flame. If you don't communicate at all, you're kind of screwing yourself over, you're fucking yourself up, and you're going to wonder why your relationship stinks. And really, honestly, it's just based on ignorance. And nobody wants to talk about that. It's sort of like kind of
Well,
like,
I think it's not just ignorance. I mean, it does play a big role. I think also part of it is fear, or the unwillingness to look at what you don't want to look at,
right,
or to acknowledge what you don't want to look at.
yeah, opening your mind to what is new to you.
Yeah.
I think that's what Eric is saying. Now, terms and conditions of being in a twin flame relationship. You are mirrored. Therefore, you are experiencing life simultaneously. Now, they can be opposite, but in the same. Like, you can have the same things happen to you, but in a different scenarios. And sometimes they can happen simultaneously. But that also depends on where you at in your soul or spiritual evolution. Now, it's not a race. It's really not something that you need to worry about right now. Just know that you are the same soul experiencing life at the same time. Now, because that you are mirrored, you have to work on your spiritual, like, karma, whatever. So let's say that you're in a relationship with your twin flame. You guys, wherever you guys have these hiccups or these negative things, whatever there's these issues that come up in your relationship, that's sort of like a key to what it is you need to fix. Like, for example, if intimacy is an issue, then in a past life, maybe intimacy was an issue there. And that's where you need to fix your situation or clear your karma. When you're in that relationship with that person, there's obviously some baggage that has carried over from a previous life that has to be addressed. And if you don't address that per terms and conditions, you break that, and you're going to have to repeat the same process all over again. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like going to school. I mean, if you fail a test, then you have to do it again. If you cheat on the test, I think there's a little bit of gray area, but I got a feeling Eric's saying that there's no gray area. That if you cheat, you're gonna have to repeat the whole process all over again. And by cheating, I mean, I don't know how to explain that, so I'm just going to put that to the side.
It's kind of like where you're not being fully authentic. kind of like cheating in terms of like authenticity. If you're not fully expressing and meaning what you're saying and following through with your experience and whatever it is.
Oh no, no,
um
no. I get it. I'm sorry. Okay, so it just reminded me. So it's like people want things to be easy. Okay, they don't want to work hard in in a twin flame relationship. They don't want to work hard for it. They think, oh well, if I'm in this twin flame relationship, it's supposed to be easy, and if it's not easy, then it's not a twin flame relationship. Well, how are you supposed to learn if you cheat? If you had all the answers, it's cheating, and you're not learning
oh, I
anything
see.
from it. So just because a relationship is difficult doesn't mean that you're not in a twin flame relationship. It just means that you have these you have these difficulties and they need to be addressed. It's a key signature in what happened or what fell through in your previous lives. Here's another one that I highly dislike. At first I believed it, but then I really started using my head. Spiritual common sense. I started using my head and I realized everyone has a twin flame, but not everyone knows them. Not everyone is going to be with them. Just because you don't know who your twin flame is does not mean that you don't have them. You just don't know them. I never met anyone that did not have a twin flame. And if you think you don't have a twin flame, I want you to contact me because I can swear to you that I will find out who your twin flame is. And who's laughing?
Oh, it's Scott.
I think the laughing came like right on cue.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just so funny because I was watching this video on YouTube about laugh tracks and how like
Laugh tracks.
laugh tracks, you know, when you're watching a sitcom and you hear people like,
Oh, 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 oh,
ah!
oh, oh,
So
oh.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that just came like perfect timing. I was thinking, should I laugh? And then he laughed. So
That is
it was
too
great.
funny.
It was great.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so just because you don't know who your twin flame is and or just because you have a turbulent relationship with your twin flame or they're not with you does not mean you don't have a twin flame. You just don't have a twin flame relationship. And it's not a big deal if you don't. The world isn't over, but you still have soulmates and you still have kindred spirits. And there's no such let me just
Yeah.
there's no such thing as false twin flames. I'm so sorry. Like you have a twin flame or you don't. This person what I mean is this person is your twin flame or not. Anybody who is not your twin flame is a false twin flame. Let's just get over that. Okay? People like to make things complicated. It's not that complicated. You don't have to label everything. It's good to have a label. Yeah, it's good to have a name for some things, but it's kind of redundant when you add false twin flame to the mix. It's stupid. It's just completely stupid. I mean, maybe there is someone in your life that you could consider to be a false twin flame, but come on, like really, every romantic relationship is getting you prepared for your twin flame. Actually, what I've heard is that all of those good qualities you've had in the people that you've dated, those are your twin flame. Not literally, but they are what makes up your twin flame. And sometimes you can pick out this one person that has everything, but it doesn't mean that person is your false twin flame. That just means this person just so happens to have all of the traits that you feel is appropriate to be a false twin flame or twin flame. And that brings me to the signs. Signs and symptoms. Okay, this is like uh this is like WebMD. You know what WebMD
Oh
is?
yeah.
Okay. I love WebMD. I'm on it constantly. so so it's like self-diagnosing. You can't self-diagnose. You have to see a specialist. You have to get tests done. When it comes to anything spiritual, signs you're on the path, signs that you were blah 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 blah, signs that you have a twin flame, signs you have a false twin flame. It's ridiculous. It's like, come on, let's face it. Come on, please, use your common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's, and I really don't mean to sound arrogant. I'm just really passionate about this. So if I come off kind of like, I don't mean to. I'm sorry. So he's making fun of me. He's mocking me. Okay. So these signs these signs and symptoms is complete garbage because they can be applied to anyone. I can count maybe 3-5 people I've dated that kind of sort of meet those requirements, but they are just soulmates. They are kindred spirits. They don't really, if you understand what I'm saying, you catch my drift. You realize that these signs and these symptoms are just bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And it's sad that these people use them because it creates it opens a can of worms. It creates a lot of problems. Communication gets muddied because you think that this person is your twin flame, and the way that you're communicating with them just doesn't work. You're not on the same page. Or maybe this person is your twin flame and you use those signs and symptoms and think, okay, well, they don't really work. They don't, it kind of, it muddies the waters, and it fucks you over. Like you're screwing yourself over by referring to these signs and these it's ridiculous. You don't need those things, and everyone's journey is going to be different. These lists are not a catch-all. All of those spiritualists are complete garbage because everyone's journey is different. You cannot, I'm going to keep repeating myself. You cannot base your whole spiritual experience on these lists. You have to look inside yourself and come up with these things. And again, it's like cheating on a test. You can't use these signs and you can't use these symptoms as means to help you understand where it's cheating on a test. It's like you're cheating on a test, and if you have all the answers, you don't learn. So these signs and these symptoms are just complete garbage. They're useless, and nobody needs to take them seriously. And what spiritualists don't tell you is just that. All they want to do is give you a whole bunch of list of information, pass it off as though they know everything, and they don't have all the answers. And I think it's sort of like an ego thing. Like when I watch these spiritualist videos on YouTube, like I can smell the bullshit coming out of their mouth through the monitor.
Well, I also don't want to scare people. And so it's like not all spiritualists are that way.
No, I'm generalizing.
I know, but sometimes generalizing things can also be a miscommunication.
Right, just as damaging. Yeah, I understand.
Just as damaging, yes.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's good that you brought it up, because then that probably wouldn't have been brought up, and then people will be like, what the fuck? So, yeah, just I'm generalizing. Just know that all you need to know is that you need to keep your mind open. Do not blindly follow these people. They don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. If we had all the answers, we would not be here.
They just have pieces of the puzzle.
Right. And
we all do. You do. Right. I do. Your neighbor next door has a piece of the puzzle. I'm like, everybody does. It's just, what kind of piece of puzzle do you have? Did you have an irregular piece?
Oh my god, oh my god, that's so funny. I was just gonna say, do you have jagged edges all over it? Or
gosh.
That is so funny. funny. I think we're like on the same wavelength or something. It's so funny.
Yeah,
We're
well, me and Scott usually joke around that we're two irregular puzzle pieces that just happen to fit together.
Oh yeah, because yeah, Scott is your twin flame. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This is what makes this whole thing interesting. Is because your twin flame is on Earth, mine is in the ethers, and sometimes in my ear, bothering me, bothering me. And I look completely retarded. Uh, One thing I also forgot to mention is that um, telepathy and mind communication is possible even if your twin flame is on Earth. Like you said, you and Scott sort of have this wavelength meetup, right? So it's like me and you, Kane. When we were
Hmm.
younger, you knew everything I needed, like everything I wanted. So you pretty much spoke for me because you knew, like you
Hmm.
instinctively knew. The same thing happened when Eric was alive. We were bouncing off feelings and interests to each other. So it's a form of telepathy. When you have a twin flame's not with you, either because they're on a business trip or they are dead or whatever, you can still formulate some kind of long distance communication, and doesn't necessarily have to be a phone line, like a physical like cell phone, whatever.
Hmm.
If you both are at a point where, and this is where evolution comes in, and I find this happens to be true when a set of twin flames are are on the same page, where they are both spiritual, they're both growing at the same rate. When they're growing at the same rate, that's where that communication is great. You don't have to find the right words because they already know. You don't
There's
have to
no
worry.
interference.
Right. There's no interference. So when there's any kind of distance between you, that is where you can develop this mind, this telepathy, this sort of like intuitive connection, because it's always going to be there.
Hmm.
It's a matter of recognizing that. And while Eric was alive, we didn't necessarily have that kind of recognition. I think I think that if he was alive, I would be the more spiritual person because I am a born psychic. I've always been psychic. It's just I was afraid of it for a long time, and it just landed on my lap and said, "Hello." And
When the weather outside is frightful.
so
Sorry, I had a vision of us in Connecticut, and it was like really like the storm was outside, and so the psychic just was banging on the door saying hello, and, and then you open the door, and then there it comes, and in comes some snow, and yeah,
I can see it as you're saying it. It's so funny.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's just like anytime there's distance, and okay, I think I am going to be confusing people. So Eric says I'm not, but I think I am. Now, anytime there is a distance, anytime there is distance, and usually there is some kind of level of distance. It can be like, well, it can be at the mall, and you can be at home, or this person can be in
Hmm.
Timbuktu, and you can be in bumfuck Egypt. Anytime there's a certain any amount of
Jiminy Christmas.
he's laughing at my anytime that there's any time that there is a level of separation, you have those bouncing of energies or of interests or feelings and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Sometimes it happens when a twin flame relationship isn't as great, but I never really heard of that um, from okay, what how Eric's explaining it is that it depends on where you're at on the soul level. So if both of you are on this, okay, so I had it right. So when both of you are on the same page or at the same level, depending on where you are, spiritually, you can be at level 1 and you can have like a little bit of, psychic communication. You could be a level, 5, and you just have complete and total like oneness or whatever.
Hmm.
And that is where it kind of makes sense. So this brings me to merging. So we're going to segue into merging now.
Woot woot.
Merging usually happens when there is distance. And when you are merging, that's what makes twin flame communication possible. Now, Eric is in the ethers, afterlife, whatever you want to call it. I like to say ethers. When because he's in the ethers. Because he's in the ethers, and obviously he's more spiritual than I am now because he is dead, and he kind of knows everything. I mean, he's still learning, but he I can consult him and whatever. So he's obviously more spiritual than I am. Whereas it would have been the opposite if he were alive. So anyways, this merging happens, and when it happens, the things that you let's just use our illnesses for example. Both of us suffered the exact, well, I want to say it's okay. So we dealt with the same exact issues, maybe a little bit less than the other. Like, he had Tourette's, I have Tourette's. It's not that visible. Like, hardly anybody notices. It's sort of like a squeak. And so like, so people think that I'm sneezing, but I'm just like, I can't duplicate it. It's hard for me to duplicate it. But and nobody really notices it. So just using that as an example, and being autistic, like, I've always been autistic, but since we have merged, some of those things, some of those traits, like even personality traits or anything, they 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 kind of like this.
Like
Like
I amplify a little
they
bit.
sort of, yeah, sort of amplifying, and you're just one person. You're one person, and it's sort of like having a conversation with yourself.
Oh, okay.
And this
Where
is
things are where the similarities are much more noticeable.
right. The similarities are much more noticeable, and this is where you can literally have a telepathic connection, and where you can have a conversation with yourself. And that's where you start to think that maybe you're crazy. And that's another thing I want to talk about as well. During this process, you're going to think that you are losing your shit. You might actually lose your shit, but really, you're not. You're not. Crazy people don't know they're crazy. And I have this fight with Eric a lot, and I'm scared, terrified that I'm schizophrenic, but I. But he says that schizophrenic people don't know that they're schizophrenic. Like, and there's a difference, and that's where different facets of you come in. There are multiple facets of you, and they're all a representation of who you are. We're going to separate twin flames in this one because Eric has his own facets that make him who he is. I have my facets that make everything who I am. And in a way, they can be separated as individual spirits. And that's where you start to think that maybe you are schizophrenic.
No, I
So,
mean, I can see that being I can see that being a thing, because it's kind of like for twins, for instance. We're identical twins. Like they pretty much are really close to the same. But for someone who doesn't really know them very well, it's like I can't tell them apart. But then you start to learn about them on an
well,
individual level. You can pick up the
sorry, I
differences.
have to like turn you down because Eric is like talking, and you're talking, and I'm starting to get dizzy. Hold on.
Oh, I see.
Um, Go ahead, keep going.
Oh, and then you're able to notice the differences in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
mannerisms or um, but the pronunciation of different words, um, a particular preference in hairstyles, and then you'll be able to say, oh yeah, your name is blah blah blah, and then the other this person is blah blah blah, and then you're able to separate the identical twins and be able to pick out, oh yeah, no, this is so and so. Whereas someone who doesn't know them just can't, just their brains, says does not compute, and I just can't figure out which name goes to this person.
Okay. Okay. So let me just
Clarify.
okay. Let me just clarify. So these different facets of you that make up who you are can be individual. They can be individualized. Like for example, you have your spirit self or higher self. You have your parallel selves, which are you, which are
Mm.
versions of you in every life that you've had. And if you are starseed, you have your galactic self. Okay, those all those are there's so many versions of you experiencing life at the same time. So when you're communicating with these different parts of you, it's sort you kind of think, oh wow, this is like crazy. Am I fucking schizophrenic? No, because you are completely aware of your surroundings. You have a understanding, a complete and total understanding of where they come, where these facets of you come from, and it's not like you are waking up in McDonald's wondering why you are in the bathroom taking a shit. Like you have total recall of everything that's happening. You're not blind. I mean, like you're not blacking out. You are just acknowledging these parts of you that make you who you are and just go like, okay, well, I feel like wearing a dress today. Okay, that must be Vanessa. Or
I see.
I can see somebody with red hair and be like, damn, I wish I had red hair. I know that's Abigail. When it comes to parallel selves, most of the time you're going to know at least one of your parallel selves, or you're going to get to know this one parallel self a lot more. And the reason for that is because they are attached to a past life that is most important, that is most relevant to this one. My life as Abigail in 1600 France, where Eric was my brother slash pimp, whatever. Uh, that life, a lot of those elements kind of carried over into this one, and it doesn't necessarily help that Vanessa has a lot of influence in this life as well. So I'm constantly working with Vanessa, Abigail, um, and A is my galactic self. I call her A. I mean, Vanessa A are the same thing. I just like to differentiate, just to keep. I like to put things in their little boxes. So as you're going through life, as you are thinking back into these situations that you were in, you're going to be able to understand what part of you has influenced the decisions that you've made, and you're going to be able to see a pattern or synchronicities. Like my past life as Abigail, um, I was a oh god, I hate saying this. I was a prostitute.
Oh goodness.
And I've had a lot of I've had many relationships, but it wasn't like but it wasn't like it was. I was intuitively looking for my twin flame. Wasn't necessarily understanding why I was being guided to find this particular someone, but that's what I wanted to do because Eric left me in a convent. He left me in a convent and he just sort of like disappeared. So my entire life has been, looking for him. So that is where there's similarities between Abigail and I. Also, the thing is that I wish I did have red hair, and for a long time I dyed it violet because I don't think I would look good with red hair. I mean, coincidentally, I think it's funny. Coincidentally, Vince likes that idea of, or liked that idea of me having red hair, and he was my father when I was Abigail and I had red hair. So it's kind of funny.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these facets that make up who you are, you can also consider them your spirit guides, because your higher self slash spirit self, your parallel self, and if you are starseed, your galactic self. Oh, by the way, I met Wasi.
You did.
Yes, I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited.
He sounded very robotic, like a real alien.
Oh wow.
Okay, but anyway, so you have your if you are a star seed, you have your galactic self. So all of these selves are guiding you in this game of life. Your spirit self or your higher self is who you truly are on a soul level. And as I said in the beginning, you have to know yourself. Was it know thyself be true?
Yes.
Yeah, Eric said yes too. Okay, so it's just it's true. Like know yourself, know thyself be true to yourself. When you get to know who you really are on a soul level, you understand your purpose on earth. You understand more of yourself. You understand why these events happened and the way that they happened in your life, and you can get your closure. It'll help you understand, okay, I did this because it was a past life thing I didn't address. And now that I'm addressing it, I can correct the issue and it would be, um, was it dead and gone?
No, you just like
Dead and done? I don't know. So you have to know yourself. And that is a big deal when you are in a twin flame relationship. I don't think that people stress that enough, because how can you love yourself? How can you love others if you don't love yourself? Your twin flame is yourself, but you have to love yourself. You have to love your twin flame. Now there is self-love, and then there's being selfish. There is a huge difference, but people like to get this confused. I'm going to refer to a post I wrote about self-love is not being selfish. So being selfish and having self-love, as I said, are not the same thing. Now, being selfish is negative, and having self-love is positive. Self-love means that you are taking care of yourself. That means eating right, exercise, getting plenty of sleep, going out and being social, staying away from toxic situations and people. It's great if you can do all of the above, but if you can do the best that you can, that's fine. You have to have self-love, and being selfish is taking what's not yours, controlling the outcome of a situation, or trying to control another person by trying to enforce your ideals onto another just so that it suits you. That's a form of selfishness. It's not thinking about the needs of others. It's lying, cheating, stealing, whatever. It's all of those negative things. Now, when I talk to some people and I say, you have to practice self-love. And she goes, oh, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. No. it, it's a little bit deeper than that. Do what you want to do, but also be of service to others, because when you are at service to others, it's a form of self-love. And I think that is a big form of self-love. When you're loving others, you're loving yourself. It gives you a little bit of self-esteem, but you cannot, don't do it because you want the brownie points. Don't. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use this as an example, and I'm probably going to be stepping on some toes, but I see a lot of people posting about rescuing an animal, okay? And they like to post a video on it. They make it a big deal, but you don't need to make something like that a big deal. And I understand that you're trying to put a message out there, but the feeling or the tone that I get from some of these is just like, oh, look at me, I just do this, I've done this big thing, and what are you doing about it? It's just sort of like this pompous attitude, you know. It's really not needed. And then there are some people that say rescue these animals because they think that they're doing something good, but it's really apparent that they just need to be put out of their misery. I mean, and these spiritualists who practice that don't necessarily want to think these animals have spirits too. They don't want to suffer. They serve their purpose. They've done their job. Let them go. And it's just, again, there's love, there's self-love, and then there's being selfish. And a lot of people don't realize that they're being selfish. Now, I'm not bashing. I'm not trying to belittle. I'm trying to instill that you have to recognize what is being selfish and what is self-love and love in general. I just feel like people just get it all twisted, and it's kind of heartbreaking when I see things like that. It's just like, do good, but don't make it a big deal. You don't need to announce it to the entire world that you rescued a duck from an oil spill. Ooh, big deal. Great. That's awesome. But I don't know. What do you have to say about it?
Um, yeah, I kind of agree. Like what came to mind is just like, people who have like pets that are really old and then they're sick and
That's
they try and then they spend like thousands and thousands of dollars of trying to save their life, and it's just like
it's
uh
and when it's obvious too.
yeah, when it's really obvious. And I've already made
So
up my mind,
sad.
like when Sasha like gets pretty old and well, when she does get sick. Um, and it's just like, and I would just make sure that she's comfortable and that she's okay and that she's not in pain, and then just, make her last days, months, or whatever be as comfortable and
Um
fun and as loving and playful as possible, and then, just, send her on her way to the Rainbow Bridge.
Oh,
Like,
I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. I'm sorry.
yeah.
So Eric wanted me to use Xano and Freya as an example.
Oh.
Xano died because it was my fault, and I left a sewing needle there, and it took me a long time to forgive myself, but now that it's done, he had somehow had a needle stuck inside him, and he had an infection. I've never really, I knew that something was wrong. Part of me wanted to assume that, okay, he's just sick, but, you know, I couldn't be selfish and just assume that there was nothing wrong with him, because it was obvious that there was something wrong. And then it was like, okay, I need to find a vet that's going to take him, but money was an issue, but I did it anyway. I went to the hospital. We called a friend that helped us out, and the doctor said, well, you know what, we can save him, but the infection is so bad that even if we took the needle out, he could still die. And she asked me if I wanted to have him revived. I said no. I wanted a DNR because I don't want him to suffer. If he's going, I'm going to trust the doctor's judgment. And she said that there's a chance that he's going to die from infection. Why would I want to subject him to that after going through a whole surgery and then recovering from it? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So he died. He died on the operating table. She calls me in the and I saw his face. As soon as I saw his face, I knew he was dead. And
Hmm.
I woke up after I saw his face, and she called me. She goes, unfortunately he's dead, but do you want me to save his life? I don't remember what, if I said yes or no. I really don't. I don't remember. Oh god, I think I didn't. Oh, oh god, I can't. He's trying to remember and like just can't. Okay, so irregardless, I at the start of it, I said I don't want you to resuscitate him, and she asked me anyway. It's like, I said I don't want him to be resuscitated. Why are you calling me? And I understand that she wanted to make sure, but I made it clear to her that I was totally against it. But she did it anyway. If he were to live, I'd be a little pissed off. But but since I had already spent $1,600 and I'm so emotionally attached, part of me would want to keep him alive. But I know that it's not fair. So I let him go. And he's gone. And there's him. He had this accident. There was this accident that was life threatening. And then we have somebody, he had an illness that was life threatening. And a lot of pets have illnesses. Okay, they have cancer. They have cancer. They have let's just use cancer. They have cancer. Okay, they have that. The doctor says that there's a really slim chance that they're going to live. Why don't you just put them out of their misery? Cancer is horrible. I mean, if you know somebody with cancer, if you witness somebody with cancer, and you're really close to them, you have an understanding of what it's like. It's painful. It's sickening. It's you see that they're fucked up. They don't have a voice. They can't tell you I want to live. A human being can tell you that, but you have to take in consideration they can't communicate with you that they just had enough. You just have to use your judgment and common sense and say, okay, well, they suffered enough. I'm going to put them out of their misery. This is just not fair. So we have illnesses like that. And then I have Freya, who is just simply very skittish. She's a very special cat. She's feral. Let me just say she's feral. A lot of people some people would put a cat like that out of the house. Some of them might get them euthanized because they just don't see a reason why they want to keep a cat that is difficult. I mean, there's that. I mean, there's a line that you can't cross, and I refuse to cross that line just because my cat is a little difficult to deal with. I leave her alone. As long as she eats, when she uses the litter box, she's fine. But Thor, on the other hand, he wasn't using the litter box, but I wasn't going to put him. I don't think anybody would do that. But I also wasn't going to kick him out of the house either. It was a medical issue that needed to be addressed, and it just wasn't addressed as soon as it should have been. Money being the issue, we didn't have anybody that was going to lend us anything, and I totally just rambled on for about 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we covered everything. Let me just recap. So I talked about how spirituality is important. You can't just be in a twin flame relationship and not, practice spiritual stuff. You have to know yourself and integrate with your higher self or spirit self. You have to know who you are. Know thyself be true. Communication. Physical communication is just as important. It is important. The communication, you have to meet halfway. You can't use language that they don't understand, or else they're going to run from you. And that's where we have the run and chase dynamic. I hate that term. So there's that. Terms and conditions. Terms and conditions are that you are a mirrored soul. So you have to accept it for what it is and work with your twin flame, work on your karma, or whatever it is that you need to work on, and you have to be diligent with it. If you cannot communicate, if you can't work on these issues to have a better twin flame relationship, then there's just, you guys have so much baggage that it's just not going to happen. You still have, you might have later on in life, and I've heard of people, reuniting later on, and that's possible. And there's also you have another life. Remember that you have multiple lives, so it may not work in this life, but you still have another life, and you still have soulmates and kindred spirits. Don't knock soulmates just because they're not your twin flame. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Just get over it. Okay. Everyone has a twin flame, just not everyone knows them, and not everyone's going to be with them. I can say I don't have a twin flame because he's not here, but I know him, so I do have a twin flame. Merging comes with difficulties. Sometimes your if you have an illness or negative things about you are amplified. and also your similarities are amplified. You start you're one, okay? So you start to be exactly alike, and it's going to be difficult to tell a difference between the both of you. There is an evolution process. It's not a race. It doesn't matter where you are on your evolution process. You don't need to worry about your evolution. You don't need to know all that information, because everyone's journey is going to be different, and you don't need to refer to these other spiritualists when they discuss evolution, or if they discuss twin flame science in general. It's just not, it's sort of like cheating on a test, and if you cheat on a test, you're not learning anything. So I'm going to stress again, don't take these things seriously. Don't These spiritualists think they have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. They don't have all the answers. Like, you can't take everything that they tell you and adapt it in your life. You have to That's something you have to figure out on their own. That is something they figured out, and they're showing it to you, but they're showing it to you in a way that is sort of like the truth, and it's not. Everyone has their own truth. So just take it as a grain of salt, put it in the back of your mind. But as you're going forward on your spiritual journey, you're going to realize what your signs and symptoms were. And if you want, you can share them with other people, but you don't need anybody's help. And you can just do this. You can do this on your own. And I'm attest to that. I stopped watching most people, especially those science and bullshit. I just avoid them like the plague. Spiritualists will not explain the spiritual facets, such as spirit self and higher self being the same thing. Basically, your parallel selves are all versions of you experiencing life at the same time. Again, using Abigail, for example, who I was in the 1600s, France, having a lot of influence in this life. And if you are a star seed, you have a galactic self. It's a galactic self. Now, not everyone is a star seed, and it's not a big deal if you aren't a star seed. Oh, okay, no. Oh, okay, so Eric is correcting me. Everyone, what? Oh, never mind. He said it. Okay. Yeah, I'm on the right track. So, not everyone is a star seed, because if everyone's a star seed, then how are we supposed to grow? Star seeds, star seeds. Okay. It's almost, time is almost up. Okay, so everyone comes from a galaxy, but not everyone is a star seed in the essence that they are a guardian of the galaxy. Everyone comes from a star system, but not everyone is. This is new. Okay, so he's correcting me. All this time I was wrong. I'm gonna write about this. I'm just gonna write about this later. But anyway, that's it for now. This is Monique Desconocido, and you can go to my store or my website, twinflamemedium.com. And I do readings starting at $5. And I do free readings as well. You can go to twinflamemedium.com. Everything will be in the links below.
And I'm Kane, Monique's twin brother, and you can find me on Tumblr at seeker-healer.
Okay.
Cool.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.
He's making fun of me. He's like, "You're so awkward." Like, yeah, I am. I don't like I have this thing. I'm just starting to say like the 3 words because it's just awkward.
What 3 words?
What? The magic 3 words.
What magic 3 words?
I love you.
Oh.
Sounds,
you're saying that to him or
sounds,
in general?
It sounds robotic, and I'm trying not to be robotic about it.
Oh, I see.
Or awkward.
Well,
awkward.
Awkward. Oh yeah. So on my phone, I got a bleep of a message about from mom from Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and she's like pretty much, I said, can I come and hang for the, I'm going to assume the week, but I didn't look at it and I didn't open it up yet. And it's her mom. She's wondering if she can spend some time with you.
Oh, yeah, I've been wanting to talk to her. All right, time is up. All right, guys. Make sure you check out the links below. I'm going to add some resources for you to look over. These are basically my blog entries. I think that some people, if you're like me, it's easy for you to understand if it's written down. But basically, everything that I have talked about is in my blog. I'm just going to put the links down there, and it's up to you whether or not you want to look at them. All right, so bye.